Welcome back, fellow readers. This is Swab, and today we are going to be taking a look at a light novel series known as The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter. This is written by Meguru Seto, illustrated by Takehana Note, translated by Tiva Haro, and published by 7 Seas. Alright, I'm going to be real with y'all right now because I know some light novel readers out there do not enjoy some of the things that I'm about to list, such as women being overly sexualized, and I'm not just meaning about their physique, it's about having large breasts and having to read descriptions of those said breasts jiggling a lot whenever they run on more than just one occasion throughout the book, and having the main character fall in said breasts more than just one occasion throughout the book, and having to have the main character rub up against as many pretty girls as possible as a plot device to be able to move the story forward. Then you got women who have perfect asses trying to grind up against the guy's face for their own self-satisfaction, and then you have some women out there who are using their sex appeal as a way to get these adventurers to do favors for them in order to get a whole bunch of bonus incentives, and then in return use that same sex appeal as a way to benefit some of those adventurers. Now, if you rolled your eyes at some of those things, or if some of those items really put you off, then this book is probably not for you. However, if you happen to identify yourself as a person of culture and you started rubbing those palms the moment I started listing off those items like the degenerate that you are, then oh buddy, do I have a book for you. Alright folks, as always, we're going to take a quick look at our book. Here we have The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter, Volume 1. We have the cover page featuring Noor, Emma, Luna, and Lola. And we're going to take a quick look at the spine real quick. It's a nice, very thick spine. We have Emma Brightness here. It's a very nice picture of her. We have the title, Volume 1. We're going to take a quick look at the back of the book. Here is a nice little design with the hidden dungeon. And we have a little synopsis here, and of course the information on the bottom. Now we're going to take a quick look inside at the inserts, and here we have the first insert here with Noor biting on the ear of Emma. You guys will read about that later if you haven't already. Here we have all the lovely ladies that you're going to be seeing throughout this volume. There are some more women who are in this volume that aren't featured here, but you know, I guess we'll get pictures of them later on down the road. And of course, here's the big event that is near the end of the book with these three lovely ladies. Alright, let's move on to the table of contents real quick. So we have a whole lot of chapters here, as you can see. And I love it when books do this because it gives me the illusion that when I read through these 4 or 5 page chapters, it feels like I'm reading through this book very fast, even though it's probably not true. It's just the illusion that gets me every time. So I appreciate that when it comes to books like these. So you can see we have 27 chapters, including the epilogue, and we also have 3 bonus chapters. Now, these bonus chapters were not originally published as a web novel, and they were included here as bonus content for these published books. And they're really well done. I would say the Olivia's Apprentice especially is very good because it gives you a backstory regarding Olivia and why she reacts the way she does when she first meets Noor. And you can see that this book is a little over 300 pages, so it's a very nice sized book, but it's a very fast read nonetheless. Alright, let's head on back to the review. So what is this story all about? This is a story that starts off with our main guy, Noor. Now, Noor is just a simple kid. He was born with one skill, and that is the Great Sage skill. Now, what is the Great Sage skill? It's basically a power in his head that he can call up at any time, and he can link up with this Great Sage. And this Great Sage is basically a voice in his head, is able to answer any question that Noor asks him. And so one of the things that he wants to do is to be able to be a great adventurer. And so he proposes the question, how do I become the greatest adventurer of all time? And so the Great Sage leads him to the hidden dungeon. There's many hidden dungeons throughout the world. This just happens to be one that's nearby. And so Noor goes in there, goes to the hidden dungeon. You know, long story short, he finds this other person that's trapped in the second floor of this hidden dungeon by the name of Olivia. Olivia used to be an adventurer, and now she is shackled down here, trapped in this second floor. And she kind of just goes with the flow, and she tries to call out for help after how many years, and she finally reaches this one kid named Noor. Now, when Olivia meets Noor, it's kind of weird at first because she gets a liking to him very quickly, to the point where it's almost unnatural as to why she would help him out so eagerly, and you kind of have to roll with it for now. But the author actually did introduce a bonus chapter in these published books, and one of those bonus chapters at the end of the book is Olivia's backstory, and when you read it, you actually really understand her mindset and why she is the way she is. And so it actually has a really nice tie into that little loophole that you get in the very beginning of the story. Okay, enough about Olivia. Let's get back to Noir. So Noir, long story short, he gets 4 main skills from Olivia, and I have to explain what those skills are in order for you to really understand what this whole story is all about. And you get those skills within the first 30 pages of this whole book, so it's not like I'm spoiling something crazy. So first, he gets a skill called Get Creative. This skill lets you basically create any skill that you can come up with. Very overpowered, right? And you have another skill called Editor. So if you think about a little MMORPG or any type of RPG where you're playing a game and it has a skill and it tells you the whole description of that skill, you can basically edit any part of that sentence within that description and can completely change that skill altogether. The third skill is Bestow. So you can bestow skills to other people. So if Noir were to gain let's say a skill that says heavyweight, and then he can give another person or an enemy that heavyweight skill, and then all of a sudden that person would feel very heavy. So that's his third skill. The fourth skill is LP conversion, meaning life point conversion. All these skills that he obtained require life points, and in order to gain life points, you have to be able to meet 3 criteria. The first activity that can gain you life points is to be able to eat delicious food. If you eat something that's very delicious and makes you happy, then you get some life points. The second thing that can gain you life points is materialistic happiness. Let's say you went out and bought something that cost a lot of money and it gained you a lot of happiness. That in exchange gives you life points. The third thing that gives you life points is engaging in sexual activity with attractive people of the opposite sex. So y'all know where this story is going next, right? So basically the amount of happiness that you can get out of any of those things relates to how many life points you can get. If you eat something very delicious, you'll get maybe 50 to 100 life points. If you were to cop a feel on this attractive girl's breast, you would probably get 500 life points, something like that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a balancing act because he has these skills that are very overpowered, but in order to use those skills, he needs to be able to gain life points in order to be able to use them. Because let's say, for example, this Great Sage skill that Nora has gives him a very big headache every time he uses it, to the point where he almost faints and wants to rest throughout the whole day. Well, let's say he edits that skill to say there's no more headache in that whole description at all. He completely removes it. That probably costs like 5,000 life points. I think the book tells you how much it is, but it's a very large amount of life points. Whereas if you were to edit the skill that just says gives me a slight headache, then that's maybe only 800 life points to cost. So it's a very big balancing act as to how much life points you need and in order to get the greater effect that you want. And that's really what this story is all about. It's about Noir wanting to become the greatest adventurer that he can be, but in order to do that, he needs to be the greatest pervert that he can be. And lucky for Noir, he has a childhood friend known as Emma Brightness. Now, Emma Brightness is one of those girls I was talking about that has the big boob jiggly physics every time she runs. And lucky for him, she's been a childhood friend. So you can only imagine how many life points this dude is getting off of this girl, right? So it's really him meeting all these beautiful women and basically telling them straight up what his abilities are. And he kind of proves it to them in very, very funny, tricky ways too, proving that he has these abilities and that he is legit. And so a lot of these beautiful women do cuddle up to him and be able to help him accomplish the things that he needs to do. Now, this first volume, I would say the adventuring is kind of very basic. You're not really seeing a whole lot. Maybe you see a forest here and there, a little bit deeper into that hidden dungeon, but for the most part, it's a very basic story. It's not like there's this huge villain that they have to fight. There actually is a main problem that they encounter throughout this book, and I don't really want to spoil it, but it has to deal with Noir being able to identify different people and seeing their different statuses and skills that they have, and he encounters someone at his school that has something, and they have to be able to figure out a way in order to basically save this person. And that's what the second half of the book is all about, is being able to solve that one problem. And it's actually very creative as to who they meet and how they have to go about it, and what Nora has to do in order to be able to meet those conditions, in order to change some things and be able to save that person. And it actually costs a lot of life points to get to that point. And one of the ways in order to gain the life points, I kid you not, it is to have a harem showcase. I'm not going to say what more about that. I'm just going to let you know there's a harem showcase in this book, and it is absolutely glorious. With that being said, we're going to move on to my final verdict for this title. And my final verdict is that it is a solid read. Seriously, if you made it this far into the video and you enjoyed a lot of the things that I said about this book, then this book is probably right up your alley. You get to experience how Noir is going to solve all these problems that he encounters using the creative abilities that he has. It kind of reminds me of that one DS game. I can't remember the name. I'm going to put a picture up here because it's just like that, where in that game you write the name of an object and that object appears in the world for your character to be able to use. And it kind of reminds me of that because Noir has all these creative basically creative freedom in order to be able to solve these problems. But it is the first volume, and so it is a little basic as to how Noir approaches some of these things. It's kind of obvious too when you read it. It's kind of almost one of the first things you think about as to what he's going to do. But you know, this is the first volume. It's all about wanting to introduce us to these characters, the setting, and everything in front of us. And I'm hoping that the next volumes really do get more creative with those skills. And of course, the built-in fan service with all these beautiful ladies is always a good plus in my book. And obviously it's doing very well in Japan. The books are selling. It got an anime. The first season's already over. I haven't watched it all yet. I only watched the first couple episodes, but I'm really curious to see how these characters are going to interact, if they interact the same way in the book. Because if they interact the same way in the book, this is going to be an amazing anime. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about the hidden dungeon only I can enter. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe, because I'm going to be bringing more light novel reviews in the near future. With that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.